Now, I haven't done one of these little segments in a while, but as we finished up our study in the book of Micah this past Sunday, there was one observation that I didn't have time to make. It was an observation left on the desk. But I had a minute to share today, so here we go. It's in Micah 7, verse 10. Now, Sunday we were saying that in verses 8 and 9, Micah is talking about how God's people were in a period of darkness and suffering, and God was going to bring them out to the light. But then I want to look at something a little bit closer in verse 10. Micah 7, verse 10 says this, "Then my enemy will see, and shame will cover her who said to me, 'Where is the Lord your God?' My eyes will look upon her. Now she will be trampled down like mire of the streets." Now I want you to notice something. It says that Jerusalem's enemies will be saying to her, "Where is the Lord your God?" And the verb "said" there, where it says, my enemy will see, I will cover her who said to me. That word "said," it implies continuing action, that verb. It's a participle. In other words, they're going to say it, and then they're going to keep on saying it over and over again until it becomes a taunting. Where is the Lord your God? And in the way it's phrased, it's not so much a questioning of God's existence, whether God's there, but it's a questioning of God's ability to rescue them and his willingness to help them. Now, that's a good question, isn't it? Have you ever asked that? I'm certain you have. At one level or another, God, if you really exist, where are you? And it makes the question of whether there's any real hope in our darkness, it makes it very practical. John Calvin, the Swiss reformer, said that this section is Micah's attempt to prepare the people to face this question while they were in exile in the years to come, and be able to properly respond. In other words, help them to know what to do when they're faced with an enemy and it isn't immediately apparent where God is. Now, that's a real question. That's one that I sometimes struggle to answer at a very practical level, right? I teach my children. I teach them that when they're scared, that God is always with them, that God is the biggest and the strongest, and that he's promised to protect them. But there will likely come a day when God will allow something into their life, some pain, some struggle, some hardship, where they might be tempted to ask, where many of us might be tempted to ask, God, if you really exist, where are you now? And at that moment, just like Jerusalem, God is no less present, he's no less strong, he's no less willing to protect, but for whose good reasons, maybe reasons we can't figure out, he may choose to wait for us to experience that protection later. So what do you do now? Well, it's not the whole answer, but the starting point of the answer is this. When you're in that situation and the question comes, where is God in this? You trust that there will be a day when the tables will be turned, when the sides will be reversed, when justice will be done, when the enemies of God, those who are taunting us, and included in that, the supreme enemies of sin, of suffering, of death, when those enemies will all be trampled down like mire in the streets. Just an additional thought as we end our study in the book of Micah, and one that was left on the desk.